This is the greatest days interview with Nicole. I can do it better. This is the greatest days interview with Nicole. I'm so looking forward to it.
How do you work? Because you have a lot of content. We'll say we can't call it content. I get that people call it now, and I'm gonna ask you how you feel about social media because I think that's changed art. I think you have to have more content. How do you feel about all that? So how do you work? And then extrapolate on that, I guess.
I mean, that's funny. It's like, how do you do your content? I'm a content provider. And, early on, I was, before the internet really took off, I was involved with The Well up in Berkeley, which was one of the first. It's almost like the nascent form of the internet, and so it was really interesting to be there at the outset and hear how people were changing the language around what they do, because there were lots of artists and lots of writers, and then I was right there at the edge of people starting to go, oh, you need to brand yourself and you need content and all this stuff, and in some ways. Yeah, I definitely have an opinion about this. I think that it's people, it's that generational amnesia that happens. That a new generation comes on, and whatever is the environment is reality. That's the environment. And a prior generation has a prior environment, and so they're watching this new environment show up and going, wow, that's completely arbitrary. We don't see the transparency of our environment. We're in our real environment, and then we're watching everything else as arbitrary. But so what you've got is these the younger generations that are used to language like content. I'm a content provider. It's like, no, well, now the new one is maker, because content provider is sort of bloodless. It's like, I am a cog that can make whatever content you... It's like, no, I'm sorry. You still have point of view and all that other stuff. What was your original question?
I don't remember.
How do I go about doing what I do? I'll go back to that.
Yeah, you are holding, but I am also. So.
This is my content maker. I am a content provider. This is how I do provide content.
Your ageless content. I imagine you in this old-timey room.
Like where I have a monk's cowl and I'm illuminating a manuscript and hearing the voice of God. It's not far off. It's like listening to the voices. The bigger part of anything that either I or Fia do, or both of us, is listening. We really listen, not listening like, let's go to a cocktail party and just be flies on the wall and listen. Where you're listening to things and the way they drop into you internally and then the way those ripple out. That's really all I'm ever doing with any of my work. I'm listening and then going, I'm following it out. I'm not very good at it. I've come to recognize this, because I do see people who are good at it, where they have an idea and then they follow it out. They're like, oh, I'm going to do this thing. Here's my idea, and now I'm just going to, fill that whole thing out. Oh, I can't. I'm not that way. Because I can start that way, and in the middle of it, I'll hear something else, and I'll go, yeah, that thing you're going, that's okay, but this is where it's really interesting. Over here, follow this one. This is where it's interesting. And so I just do that. And all the how of what I do is what's an example of this? I was just thinking of how I do work. It's, I just did a print recently where it was a black and white print, but when I scanned it, you could see the writing underneath it.
Yeah.
And now I could have done all the photoshopping and gotten it all cleaned up so it looked like the page, but when that came through, it was like, wow, not only does that look really cool, but it fits what the story is. And so it's just paying attention to how things show up. There's a lot less agency in it. That's another big term. It's like your agency, where it's like, yes, I am the one doing this. The more I go on, the less interested I am in the I, in who I think I am, because that identity thing, it's, over the past 6 or 8 years, I've come to see that identity, from my experience of it, is entirely a defensive construction. So anytime I pick an identity, or like I say, this is who I am, as I go back and sort of unpin it, I go, oh, you pick that in relation to protecting, a soft spot, a self. And so the more I release identities or stay really fluid with them, like my identity is no longer, here is who I am. It's this moment, this is what I'm going to play with. And this moment, this is what I'm going to play with. And so it's not identity so much as it's the way you can be really smart with one friend, and you can be really funny with another friend, and in a business meeting you can be really really controlled and focused, and those are not your identities. Those are how you are in relation to the environment and the other selves. So it's the more I go on, the more we play with this. It's a larger you. So it's not, my identity is not me. It's right now the identity is you and me. That's actually the totality right now.
Right. So, do you throw out your stuff a lot, like literally? Like I picture you up in your monk's outfit, crumpling. Clearly not in your monk's outfit anymore, in your flannel-ish shirt.
I'm part of the flannel order of the Sacred Brothers. No, I don't. But I wonder if I have brought this. This would be more like it. So no, I don't actually throw it out. But let me see if I have something there I can go. Oh yeah, this will give. So I'll start working on something.
Yes. Oh.
And then I'll keep working on it. And then I'll keep working on it. And then I'll go, I like it.
Oh, wow.
So no, I don't do the, like the classic, right, and then throw it. It's like, no, I just keep writing
and drafting.
But again, it's partly a listening thing. As I'm writing, it's an, I guess from the outside in, it would look like I'm writing, but from the inside out, I'm using the writing as an excuse to listen. And the minute I hear what I'm supposed to be hearing, then I just trash everything that came before, because it's like, yeah, that was just to get me there.
Is it your natural handwriting, or did you cultivate that for the art?
I have different handwriting based on different states of consciousness. So that's a particular that particular handwriting is how would I put it? It's a slower it's a slower form of being. It's paying more attention to the actual movement of the pen on the paper, and so it's slower. It allows me more space to listen. So that's a particular thing. But then I have I've got 4 distinct ways of writing. So here's another way. This is when it's very different.
It's very different.
And that's more this particular one is more of when I write like that, it's more, Elizabeth Gilbert has talked about where you chase after an idea and you're just hoping to grab the tail, but this is more of that. This particular one is me trying to keep up with what's going on. And which is there's a breathlessness to that kind of writing. Whereas the other one, there's actually no breathlessness at all. It's simply, I think there's an awful lot of, I think you missed that one. Let's try it again. It's like, okay, good.
Do you draw draw it first, or do you write it first, or does it happen in your mind at the same time, or what?
It changes. It changes. So sometimes I draw it, and like, you know, if here, this is really fun. I think it's really fun. Is these? So these are the you know,
Oh, wow,
women rising icons.
Yeah.
And so these, you know, it's like, do I write them first?
No.
Draw them first? There's no writing.
Right.
So, and these, to me, this actually explains, I think, better than almost anything, is that I start with a bare piece of wood, and I'm drawing, and then I'm erasing, and then I'm smearing paint over it, and it shows up along the way. And that's, if you think, this is where I think it gets tricky from a writing standpoint, because people think that when you write, you're actually, writing is odd in that it feels transparent to most people. You have these ideas, and the writing is just transferring them onto paper. My experience is that the writing itself is the process that unveils the thing itself. So it's not very different than my drawing or painting. Is that I don't know what I'm going to draw. I don't know what I'm going to paint until I'm in the middle of it. I have no idea what I'm going to write because I'm in the middle of it. It's just the way I work. I know people work differently. So back to your question, depends.